Hey guys, we're back. This time we're going to be taking a look at Aliens, Another Glorious Day in the Core from Gale Force 9. This one was sent to me by them to take a look at. I think it's a really cool game. It's kind of a cooperative, you versus the game, but this one's pretty cool in the aspect that no matter how many players you're playing with, you're going to be using all 6 of the base Marines that are in the game. So you'll control a main character with a named ability and all kinds of stuff, and then the other ones turn into grunts that aren't actually controlled by players, and they're kind of shared. Interesting concept, and I like the way a lot of this works. It feels very much to me like Space Hulk, but with a Aliens theme, and I think Aliens came first. At least I know the first movie did. I don't know about the second, but anyway, we're going to get right in and take a look. Crunch, crunch, crunch. So the first thing we have here is what turned a lot of people off of the game, unfortunately. The models actually come in pieces that you need to cut off of spruces in order to assemble. Now they're not too bad. The main characters, the Marines, are all like 2 to 3 pieces, and they go together pretty easily. They're all named, and they have their names actually printed on the base. I don't know if you can see it there, but they were right on the spruce all together. So this was one character, this was one character. The only ones that were different were these 2 down here had some other optional arms. I think it was the big gun, and those are actually labeled to the person they go to. I think it was that one and that one. But they were pretty easy to put together. Not a lot of complaints there. But anybody who's just a board gamer and not really a war gamer probably isn't too familiar with having to put together your own figures. So that kind of was a turnoff for a lot of people. I know Gale Force 9 did offer assembly. You can see here the alien assemblies are quite a bit more involved. There's actually 4 different aliens, and then you got 4 copies of each. And GF9 was offering a pre-assembled thing that came with a cool box to store them in as well, with foam inserts for the figures. But overall, yeah, there were 4 spruces of the aliens that were all identical to each other, with 4 aliens on each, and then the 1 of the Marines. So keep that in mind if it's a game you're looking into. You will have to do some assembly unless you can get a hold of those pre-assembled ones, which come with a nice storage solution. They were limited to 300 though, so I don't know if they're still available, if there's any left. 6th thing here we have is our rule book, and this is done fairly well. Lots of component lists here in the front, lots of cool colored diagrams explaining everything. They have the game setup broken down, and how the turns work, how the grunts work, how gearing up works. The aim dials are an interesting mechanic. Then you have the endurance deck, which is also a cool idea. And the only thing that's really not explained well in here is the rapid fire rules, which I'm not even sure where they are off the top of my head. I'm sure I'll come to them. But they don't specify what to do in the case of multi-fire weapons that have a higher cost. And I'll show you those when we actually get to the cards. Really cool thing here on the back is kind of a quick reference guide, but everything that they explain to you, they also tell you what page in the rule book it's on, which really helps. So if you want more information than what's given here, you can look up the perform action step. It's on page 16 of the rule book, and then they also give you a quick reference of what that is there. So I love the way that that's set up. Onto these, we have the mission cards. I'm not going to show more than the first one here just because I don't want to give it too much away. But you can see here, this shows you the layout of the board, where the spawn tiles are going to be, where these are quest icons are going to be, and the exit for the mission. Over here they have a little key that explains what everything is. On the back side you actually have the mission, which tells you your mission goals and any special rules that pertain to that mission, as well as how this fits into the overall campaign. There's a whole bunch of these in here. There's actually 3 missions, I think, in the campaign, and then there's optional side missions for if a character gets captured and you want to go rescue them. We'll get to that when we get more to the campaign. The next thing we have here are the actual boards, and these are double-sided. One side has the military installation or base, and the other side has an alien interior for when you go storming after them. And these can be rearranged by lining up the doors, which the mission cards will tell you to do, and they can be rearranged in quite a few different configurations. But it would have been nice to see more of these in the base game. There is an expansion that adds more to them, but I think there's enough variety here that depending on how you mix and match and connect them, you can get quite a few. You can even design some of your own, I think, but they are a nice thick board, so they're going to be durable and last a while. The finish is kind of a matte, which will help the glossy ones I tend to find scratch easier. So next thing we have here is an insert that really doesn't work too well with this game. I flipped the box over, of course, so everything's all over the place, but this little indent on this side is just big enough for the spruces to go in. That's where they'll be stacked when you first get it. And all of the miniatures actually do fit back in there. As you can see, they're all piled in there, but it's not very sturdy way to transport them. If you're just going to box this up and set it on your shelf, this insert will probably work fine. But if not, you're probably going to want to find something better to do these so that your aliens, especially their tails, don't break off. But they do all fit in there, though. And this is what happens when you store them in there, though. All their tails get all hooked up. But you get 16 of these alien figures in 4 different poses. They also have changeable arms and tails, as well as 2 head options for each. So you get a lot of variety in how you can set them up. The arms are also movable, so you can pose them in different positions. And like I said, the tails are swappable, so you can put them in different positions. And overall, it gives you plenty of customization. And as I said, each one has 2 head options too, so when you're putting them together, you end up with a whole pile of extra heads at the end that you can use for whatever. I'm going to put mine in my bits box in case I need them for something else. Even they have some variety though of closed mouth, there's open mouth, and then there's open mouth with the tongue sticking out. Lots of interesting things you can do with those. Overall though, the plastic models do give you a lot of detail. And if you want to paint these, you could probably do some pretty awesome things with them. That said, they still look cool even unpainted. Then you have our Marine characters, and they're also pretty awesome. The nice thing about multi-part plastic kits is that they can do a lot more detail than you can get with just the standard one mold models. And each one of them has a different weapon, and their names are actually on the top of the base. The original concept art showed them across the front, but they're on the tops, so that's kind of cool. The guy with the heavy weapon here was probably the hardest to put together because you had to put on both arms and connect them to the gun. It's also worth noting that the Newt figure here is actually unique to the first print of the game with her saluting. Later printings are going to have a different model for her. Next we have this neat thing that goes to separate your card piles, and you're actually going to put this on your table, and then throughout the course of the game you're going to have various piles of cards for your motion tracker deck, which is going to go here. If it'll sit, it's at an angle. And your endurance deck, which is going to go here. Throughout the course of the game, you're going to have a discard pile for the motion trackers. Are going to go here. The exhaust these endurance cards are going to be exhausted, they're going to go here, and if they ever get discarded, they're going to go over here. And that plays into the campaign, which we'll get to. You also have these little phase cards, which are kind of cool, that again show you each step of a turn phase. Has the Marine phase on one side and the Alien phase on the other, so you know what to do. You have 6 of those, 1 for each player. Then we have our Alien Horde tokens. These have the little alien heads on them, which are pretty cool. And these are going to be used for when you have aliens in a swarm. So you can only have 1 model on a square on the board, but say there's 4 there. You're going to take 3 of these tokens and put them under, and that designates that that is a swarm of 4 aliens. So they move and attack basically as one, but you need to kill 4 of them in order to kill the swarm. You also have 2 of these facehugger tokens, which are used in a specific mission, I believe. You have 2 exit tokens, or just exit on one side and A and B on the other, for various missions. That's your extraction point. I have a couple computer terminal tokens that are used in various missions, as well as crates. These are also used in different missions for different things. We have our spawn point markers, 1 through 4, and these are going to be spaced out throughout the map. And when it comes time to spawn aliens, that's where they're going to spawn based on what number comes up. We have these little mission blip tokens, and these are going to show up on your map for a specific mission objective. And when you go to them, depending on what you get, you could find a person, you could find aliens. And these are probably the only piece in the entire game that I'm not kind of fond of, because the die for them is off-centered. I don't know if you can see. So they're all cut off-centered. Thankfully the normal blips aren't, but those bug me being offset like that. I fear that if you play enough, you could figure out which one is which based on how offset they are. And eventually I'm going to learn which one is the girl and never have to go to the others. It's just kind of a drawback. We have these cool hole tokens, which show up when the aliens bust a hole. So they'll break a hole in the floor, and now they can pour out of there. Those come up for different motion tracker cards. We have 2 Sentry Gun Emplacements, and these are used in a specific mission, along with a tracker for them to keep track of their remaining ammunition as they're firing. The only thing that really bothers me about this too, with all the quality they put into the components, the windows are actually slightly offset, so that if you try to set the dial center, you can see there, one is higher than the other. If you try to put them at the same height, one of them ends up being crooked. Just a small nitpick, but I'm guessing these 2 holes aren't completely centered. That or the holes in the dials aren't completely centered, but it bugs me. Simple little thing. Doesn't really hurt anything, but... And then we got here is our turn tracker to keep track of which turn it is. Guild Force 9 loves their dial system. They use this for X-Wing. Speaking of the dials, these are actually, I think, the same size as the ones from X-Wing. These are used to keep track of your character's aim, and depending on the character you play, it's going to start at a set number, and equipment and things may raise it or lower it, and then every time you fire in a round, you're going to reduce this by 1. So if you have a rapid fire weapon, it's going to keep going down as your aim gets worse and worse because of the recoil. At the beginning of the turn, it resets to whatever your current aim value is. So the more you fire in a single turn, these get worse, and then they reset later. And there's extra of these. There's one of these for every Marine, so you can keep track of them all separately. Then we have the Barricade Markers, and these are a little small for my liking. They're kind of fiddly and hard to mess with, but They actually fit exactly over, if I can find one on this. There's a door here. They'll fit over top of the door to show that it's been barricaded and sealed shut. You can also use them to seal shut the spawn points, in which case the aliens have to break through them before they can come out. I believe you can actually seal up the vents too, and they break holes and things. I haven't actually run across that in a game yet to try, but those are kind of neat, just very small. I wish they're a little bit bigger and not so tiny for my big sausage fingers. Kind of skipped over these when I did the others, but here's the actual blips that are going to show up on your motion tracker. And these are off-centered too, but not enough to make really a big difference. And they're all pretty much the same offset, I think, so it'd be really hard to tell what's what in these. Not like the other one where there's only 4 of them, so it might be easier to learn. But as your motion tracker picks up aliens moving about the map, they're going to show up as these blips, which appear on your radar. And these are going to move during the alien's turn towards the Marines. When one finally gets into line of sight of a Marine, so if he's here, once they get up here where he can see them through the door, you're going to reveal them, and it tells you how many aliens are going to appear. So in that case, you would get 1 there, and this one is a 3, so you would get 2 of our swarm tokens, and then an alien to go with that. Kind of a neat thing. This is the part that really reminds me of Space Hulk, with the blips moving around the map. And we have an activation token here for the active player. It's got the bug stomper. I love it. That's going to get passed around so you know who the active player is. We have, of course, our reshuffle token. This actually goes at the bottom of the endurance deck. And it has cool phrases on there. Which are just great quotes from the movie. Nice little speech. Next we have our dice. And we get 1d6 for the aliens to use. And then 2d10s for the Marines to use. And the star on there is a 1. Because in this game, rolling low is good. And the last thing we have is our player cards. There are 6 of these, 1 for each of the players that you can be of the Marines. Up here they have either a Marine logo or a civilian logo. And then they also each have a rank. And the rank is, in this case we've got Private Vasquez here with a rank 1. And we have Lieutenant Gorman here with a rank 3. Depending on how many players you have, so say you only have 2 players and you're playing these 2 characters, your other characters are going to be flipped over to their generic sides. On the name side, you have special abilities here for your character, and your stats are a little bit higher. On the generic side, you become a grunt, and these are just nameless characters, and they have no special abilities. Their stats are a little bit lower. And you're going to use all the characters regardless. So you'll be playing these 2 characters, and that number up there basically designates how many grunts you can command around on your turn. So in this case, Gorman with his 3 would be able to command around 3 grunts, while the private here would only be able to command 1 grunt around. So it's kind of an interesting way that they have it set up. And I really like the way it fits into the game, allowing you to make use of every character. The other cool aspect to it is, because of the way the campaign works, is you're trying to complete the game, but you only have a set number of endurance cards, and every time you use a weapon or whatnot, they get exhausted and go to this pile. Certain things cause you to discard them. Well, throughout the course of the game, things that end up in the discard pile over here, you don't get back. And you only recycle the stuff from the exhaust. Well, come the next campaign, You also don't get those cards back. They're gone. Same goes with the characters. Any character who is killed throughout the course of the game, you no longer have access to. If they're captured, there's a secondary side scenario that you can do to go try to rescue them, but you run the risk of burning through more cards that you might need later, or someone else getting injured or killed along the way in that attempted rescue. We also have one last player board for Newt, who's the little girl that you're trying to rescue. And once she's rescued, she kind of follows around Ripley. So whether she's a player character or a NPC in your game, Grunt, she's going to follow her around. So just to kind of give you an idea of the gameplay, we have everything set up here for the first mission, which is to rescue Newt. So just to kind of give you an idea of the gameplay, we have everything set up here for the first mission, which is to rescue Newt. And up here we have everybody set to their grunts with their dials on them. We have chosen Ripley to play as us. Now for every player character, like I said, you're going to use them face up with their abilities and higher stats. If they're a player, if they're not, you use the backside, which has lower stats and no ability, which is what all those guys are. And you can equip people however you want. I have to stick it on the screen there because I don't have any room. But just for this example, I decided to go with body armor, which would go down here under equipment. Kind of off the screen, but you can see it there. And then we got some M40 grenades and an M41A pulse rifle, and these would go off to either side like this. They're going to be off camera here because it won't fit on the board without blocking things. And Ripley's aim is a 7, so we're going to set our dial to 7. So at the beginning of our turn, we're going to go through our phase steps. Number 1 is to reset the dial, which we've done. Number 2 is to resolve any activation abilities, which Ripley, who is our current active, has a non-activation ability, which is to recycle 2 endurance cards and draw 1 card. We don't have any cards to recycle. Normally we would take 2 cards from here and put them on the bottom of the deck, but we do get to draw a card. In which case we got an event. Allows you to re-roll a failed defense roll at the cost of 1. So we're going to hang on to that. And Ripley also has a passive ability which is similar. Once per turn, you can exhaust a card to choose a character within 4 spaces of Ripley, and that character can re-roll a failed defense roll. So it should be very helpful. So the next thing to do is to equip endurance cards. If we have one, the only card in our hand right now is this. It's an event card. If we had a weapon or equipment card, we could equip those onto ourselves, like our armor that we already have. Step 4 is to perform up to 2 actions, and the actions are chosen from this list here. Move, attack, barricade, aim, interact, card action, or rest. So move is easy enough. We have a speed stat on our card here. In her case, it's a speed 5, so we can move up to 5 spaces. There's nothing to currently attack, but we'll do a demo of that at the end here. Barricade allows us to take one of the Barricade tokens, and you roll a check to see if you can seal a door that you're currently at. I don't even know where's Ripley right now. So she would have to be standing at the door to do that, and it's a test you have to roll. So to see if you succeed, we're not at a door, so we can't do that right now. The next is to aim. You can take a one of your actions to aim, which would take our 7 and boost it up to an 8. Her 7's already one of the highest, I think the highest in this box set, so there's really no need for that right now. But if you have one of the lower guys, or you plan on using a rapid fire weapon and firing multiple times, that number is going to go down, so this will give you a chance to boost it up at the beginning. Interact is another one. Over here we have a computer terminal, and in this mission you can interact with the computer terminal because Newt is hiding in one of these 4 locations, but you don't know which one. So you go there, and when you get into line of sight, you flip them over, you have the chance of it being Newt or being an alien. Using the computer terminal, if you interact with it while standing next to it, you can flip one of these tokens over and see what's there. Gives you a little heads up. That's different depending on the mission you're doing, but that's what it is on this current mission. Card action, again, we have this event card. We could use something like that. This one doesn't really, this one has to be used in a specific circumstance, but other ones can be used depending on what's going on. You could play a card like that. Or rest. And the rest action allows you to draw up to 2 cards from the endurance deck, and then you can recycle up to 3 cards from either the exhaust pile or from your hand if you have something that you're not going to be able to use. If one of your grunts is taking a rest action, they do not get to draw because the grunts don't have a hand of cards, but they do get to still recycle cards from the exhaust pile. After that, you move on to step 5, which is to resolve any end of action abilities. Since Ripley's our only active hero here, we don't have any of those, I don't think. Because nobody really has any abilities. There's a couple passives that are still in play on the grunt side, but we would skip that step. There's characters that have things that allow you to, for instance, reveal a card and then put it in your hand if it's a certain type, or to look at the top card of the motion tracker deck and decide if you want to put it on the top or the bottom of the deck. Things like that. Step 6 is to use your rank to activate grunts. So after all the player characters have gone, you're going to look at your rank, in which case Ripley actually doesn't have a rank. It's not actually specified in the rules, but for thematic purposes, it makes more sense for one person to activate each grunt only once per turn. So in one case, this guy moves, he gets to activate 2 guys, he moves these 2, and so on. This guy goes, he gets to activate 1, he moves that guy. It doesn't make sense to go back and activate the same guy multiple times, although the rules don't actually forbid that. So I'm not sure if that was a accidental omission to the rules or something they're going to have to FAQ. And then you're going to take the activation token, you're going to pass this to the player to your left. If they've already taken a turn this turn, then this is going to get passed back to the highest ranking player. And then they're going to get a chance to activate any remaining grunts who have not activated yet this turn. So basically, you're going to reset your dial, resolve your actions, equip any cards you want, do your 2 actions, resolve any endgame stuff, activate any grunts if your rank allows it, then pass this on to the next player. They go through those same steps, pass it on to the next player, and so on until it gets back to everybody's had their turn, goes back to the highest ranking person, and they can activate any grunts who have not been activated yet. When that's all said and done, you go to the alien turn phase, and theirs is a lot easier. They only have 3. You get to activate any aliens that are in play. So in this case, we have none that are out right now that can be seen. Our next step is to activate blips, which we have 2 of over here. And the way you do that is by rolling the alien die. And you do this 1 per tile. So this tile over here only has 2. There's none on here, and none on here right now. But that's how you figure it out, is per tile. So if there was another one on this tile over here, you would roll separate for these, but we don't have one there for now. We only have the 2, so we're going to roll. We get a 5. They're going to move 5 spaces towards the closest Marine, and they take the shortest path possible, which is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there's still no direct line of sight to those, so they stay as blips. Next thing you're going to do is draw a motion tracker card, and this is the interesting part. You actually draw a number of these equal to the number of players. So in our example game, we only have Ripley here, so we're only going to draw the 1 card. And this we get, they're inside the perimeter. Place a tunnel token in a square within line of sight next to this character. You got to put it next to and within line of sight. So you can go here, here, probably we'll put it there. just so more people can see it. And then we're going to reveal a card, which we revealed a weapon. In this case, a weapon. We're going to place 2 blips on every tunnel token. Well, there's only 1 tunnel token out there. So this will go back. So go to the discard pile. So we're going to put 2 blips. One goes on the grate. One's going to go next to it. We'll put it there. And then they are in line of sight, so we're going to reveal. So we got a 1 there and a 3 there. So we're going to get 1 alien right there. And then 2 tokens. And 1 to stack on top there. Next, we're going to resolve any finish of the phase abilities, which we don't have any. We're going to check for victory or defeat. Victory in this case is escorting Newt from the table. We haven't actually found her yet, so that hasn't happened. Defeat is if Newt gets killed or all of our Marines are defeated, in which case neither of those have happened, so we keep continuing on. Cleanup is to reset anything that needs to be done. The only other thing to do during the cleanup is to adjust our turn counter here. And I actually did something I'm not supposed to for this mission, just for the example here. In the first mission, you actually don't draw the motion tracker cards for the first 3 turns, but I wanted to do something to get some aliens on the table so we could actually fight. So that's why I did that, just so you know. So now, because they popped out of the vent, I didn't get to do it, but normally when an alien moves and becomes close to a hero, other heroes get a defensive fire ability where they can fire their weapons. And they, for this, let's assume all of our grunts are equipped with a pistol here. You're going to get the abilities on here. In this case, it always hits on a 3 or less, and it's going to cost 1 to fire. Roll your die. A 4, let's say we were using Hicks here. He starts with a 6. So that drops down to a 5. That's going to hit, and you're going to kill one, and so on. And then you exhaust a card from the endurance deck as payment for using the pistol. Everybody who can see, has a line of sight to him, is going to get a chance to make that shot. Unfortunately, he came out over here, so we didn't actually get to do that. But now that it's back to our turn again, our first thing to do is going to be attack with Ripley. Now we could move first, but then we only get 1 attack. If we sit still, we can actually attack twice. So first we go through our phases again. Step 1 is to reset our dial, which is already at 7 for her. Our on-activation ability allows us to recycle 2 cards and draw a card, which we will do. And then we can perform actions. We're going to attack, and we're going to use our M40 grenades here first. And these require a discard to make an attack with this, so it's only a 1 use. Choose a space that's within up to 4 spaces in line of sight. Roll for each model in that space and within 1 space of it. So in this case, we're going to throw it at this guy in the back, and it's going to hit 1 square all the way around him. So it's going to hit this guy, but none of ours. So we zoom back out here. We're going to pay the cost of ours, which is to exhaust 1 card. We're going to discard this, which unfortunately means it is no longer used and actually goes to the discard pile. But we're going to get our 1 die attack, and Ripley has a 7, which we got a 5. So that's going to deal 1 damage. See, this is where the multiple things come in. This doesn't really say, but I'm assuming it says roll for each model. So that's going to kill the first guy we targeted. So we're going to move 1. And I'm assuming we have to roll for each. But now, is this still the same attack? In which case our aim dial stays at 7. Or does it reduce for each of the following attacks? That I'm not clear on. I think, since it's only a single attack, that's what I'm going to use it as. So that's a 7. That'll kill another one. That's a 1. That'll kill the last one. And the guy in the front. That's a 1. So she wiped out all of those with a single grenade. This goes to our discard pile. And our Marines are looking a lot prettier now with that pile of aliens dead. And that's pretty much how the gameplay goes. You're going to go around, you can either use the computer terminal to try to find which blip over here is Newt, or you can go in and explore. A couple things that I didn't mention and a couple corrections I wanted to make before somebody flames me out there. The doors here are actually closed and block line of sight. So if you're here, that door is closed, you can't see down this hallway. But as soon as somebody's adjacent to it, those doors slide open, and now it no longer blocks line of sight. So if there was a blip down this hallway, when you're here, the door is shut, you can't see. If you move to here, the door opens, now you can see, and you would reveal that. The same thing goes for aliens. If you are here and there's aliens in this room, and they're moving up, when they move here, the door is still shut, but as soon as they move there, this door would open, now you have line of sight, that would flip over. Barricading a door prevents it from opening, so if you have the barricade marker on here, that door is sealed, now even if you move up to it, it will not open. You can break through a barricaded door, there are special rules for that, as well as the aliens, of course, can rip through those like tissue paper, like they do. A couple other things that I may have worded wrong in my description going through, so I want to make sure I make them right. The first player token. This actually goes to the player with the highest rank to start. They do not have to take their turn first. They can give this to any player they want. And the player goes through their turn phase and then passes the token to their left as it goes around the table. So that can change up the play order. It's the highest ranking officer's option, though, of who gets to go first. The other thing I think I may have misspoke when I mentioned was the recycling cards. At the bottom of your deck, there's actually a token. And this token actually sits underneath the deck of the endurance cards. Whenever something gets recycled from your exhaust deck to the endurance deck, it goes under that token. So throughout the course of the game, you know, you're going to use cards as you fire weapons and things. They get exhausted, and different abilities are going to allow you to recycle those cards. They all go on the bottom underneath that token. When you finally get to the reshuffle token, that's when you're going to take this. This goes back here, and then you reshuffle these cards, and this becomes your new endurance deck. So it is possible at some point to completely run out of cards in your endurance deck, all of them be exhausted, and not have anything in the endurance deck to draw. That condition really sucks, and you need to do some things that allow you to recycle to get these cards back in that deck, to reshuffle, to get endurance cards. Because without cards in the endurance deck, you can't say fire your pulse rifle, which means you have to exhaust 3 cards. If there's no cards to exhaust, I can't use that. If at some point all of the cards get into the discard deck, and there is not any cards in the endurance deck or the exhaust pile, the game is actually over. You immediately lose. So you have to keep that in mind. The card management really matters. And the big thing, as I mentioned before, anything that ends up in the discard deck, like our grenade we threw, does not come back in the next mission of the campaign. It's gone. And there's cards in there. There's 4 different types of cards. You have your weapons, you have events, you have equipment, and you have hazards. Hazards are bad things, and they do bad things to you. You don't want hazards. Same goes for the motion tracker deck. You have hidden threat cards. You have alien drone cards. You have active threat cards, and you have tunnel cards. And those are all going to change what happens. There's also different things like this. At location 4, you're going to spawn 2 blips worth of aliens. Some have 1, some have 2, and then at the bottom there's different events that are going to take place depending on what's going on. But anyway, that is a quick look at how pretty much everything plays, and I'm sure I made some mistakes in this video. I'm sorry, I've only had the game a few days. I've only managed to play a couple games with it, so I wanted to get this video out as soon as possible because the game releases on Saturday. I'm hoping to have this video up by then, and like I said, I may have made a few mistakes, but there's plenty of gameplay videos out there. Check those out. The manual is available for free to download, so you can download the rulebook and look through that as well. I more just wanted to give a quick overview on how things worked. And that's a look at Aliens, Another Glorious Day in the Core. I really like the concept of this game. I love the fact that it reminds me of Space Hulk, in that you're running around these corridors being chased by mobs of aliens that you don't know how many there are because you got these blips on the radar until you can actually see them. There's lots of cool concepts going on here. I like the endurance deck, that it gets lower and lower as the campaign goes. You have access to less and less things, and eventually it can run out and you can lose, or your characters can die and you can lose. And the really cool aspect of the motion tracker deck here, in that you can tell how dangerous a card is by how many blips are on the back of it. So something like this is probably not going to be too terrible. I think most of the cards in here are bad though. Whereas something like this, you know to prepare when you see this coming up that it's going to be a problem. And then you have the intermediate here. It's not quite as many. I think there's 6 on there. So you can kind of judge by what it looks like as to what's coming up. I've seen that in a couple other games, but this is the first one I've seen make use of it exactly, that way. I like the fact that no matter what the player count is, you're going to get to use the full team of 6 Marines. So whether you have 6 players or 1 player, you're still going to get to use the entire team of 6. That's pretty cool. And the fact that they're all unique in their own way can adjust your playstyle or what you're playing with. You get to arm them at the beginning of the game with cards out of the endurance deck, and you can take pretty much whatever you want and equip yourself how you see fit. Do you want big guns? Do you want armor? Do you want grenades? Things like that. But the more you carry, the more weapons you use, the faster the pile gets exhausted and things like that. So you have to keep that stuff in mind as well. The more stuff you take out of the deck and equip your characters with, the more chances are that you'll draw something bad out of there as well. The more equipment and things that are still in the deck, then you can draw those later on, and it's not that big of a deal. Overall, though, I really like the game. I like all the concepts that are in it. I love the way that it plays, and I can't wait to see more. If I had one real complaint about it, it's that it only comes with 4 map tiles, so your map selection is quite limited. And there's only 3 real scenarios in the campaign, a couple extra side ones that are in there as well to play. But I felt like they could have added a couple more tiles and a few more missions to the base game. That said, there is an expansion, Get Away From Her, You Bleep. And that one contains 5 new missions that can be added to the campaign, a bunch of new board tiles, as well as 5 new standalone, like one-shot missions, kind of like Bug Hunt, where you go out and a couple of them even include the Alien Queen. So that one's kind of neat, and it has a couple new rules and add-ons to it as well. Then on top of that, there's the Ultimate Badasses expansion, which adds another team of Marines for you to choose from. You still max out at a team of 6, but you get more options to choose from. It also includes a level up system where your Marines are going to gain special new abilities in between each mission as they gain experience. So that's pretty cool too. And they also even have a box you can get that has 3D models for the turrets, the face huggers. There's alien eggs from one of the expansions, I believe. And I'm trying to think what else is in there. The computer terminals, the crates, some really cool stuff. Kind of missing that they didn't put the barricades, because I would have liked some 3D barricade tokens. These are very hard to see on the table sometimes. They do have a flip side that's an alternate color, so it makes them a little easier to see, but would have loved to see 3D things for that. I might look and see if I can find some to print with my printer, because I'm pretty sure you're going to be able to find those, because I think a lot of people wanted them. Overall, though, I think it's a really fun game. I liked a lot of the concepts in here, and they all work together well. These the aim counters are really cool, in that rapid firing actually has a penalty. They lower your aim the more you shoot in a turn, which makes a big difference when it comes to using some of those big heavy weapons with rapid fire to take out multiple aliens. Some of them feel like big honking weapons too when you fire and you're discarding piles of cards at a time. It's very thematic to the movie, and it really makes you feel like you're taking part in some of the battles that were in the movies, getting chased down the corridors by swarms of the aliens, and basically just making your way to the exit and trying to decide if it's worth it to stay and fight and try to hold them off while others escape, or to just make a beeline and run for the exit. To me, that feels like the movie. I like the system they use for attacking. You basically need to get under your aim skill, and the more you shoot, the lower your aim skill gets, the harder it is to hit things. Yeah, it's just a lot of interesting concepts that all work well together to make a fun game. And while the base game here was given to me, I liked it so much, I've already gone out and bought both of the expansions and the 3D model pack for myself. So say what you want, some people are biased in reviews where they're given the games, but I've invested more money in the expansions and things than it would have cost me to go out and buy the game. That's how much I liked it. So anyway, that's going to wrap it up for our look at Aliens: Another Glorious Day in the Core. As always, thank you guys for watching, and stay tuned for the next videos of the expansions when I get those in and get some time to play them.